Professor Alistair Humphrey, a man whose world revolved around dusty tomes and forgotten gods, never imagined he'd trade his Oxford study for the sun-scorched dunes of Marrakesh. He was a mythologist, a scholar of the archaic, his life a tapestry woven with legends of Izdihar, the city of whispers, a place said to be swallowed by the sands millennia ago. Marrakesh, now a war-torn wasteland, was believed to be built upon its very bones. Alistair wasn't here for adventure, he was here for knowledge, a desperate gamble, funded by a shadowy benefactor, the enigmatic Mr. Thorne, a collector of the bizarre and the unexplained, believed Alistair was the key to unlocking Izdihar's secrets he craved for reasons Alistair couldn't fathom. Marrakesh was a symphony of despair. Skeletal buildings clawed at the sky, their hollow eyes staring out over a landscape scarred by conflict. The air hung thick with the stench of burning oil and the ever-present fear of the warring factions, the Loyalist Army, remnants of a fallen regime, and the Shadow Syndicate, a ruthless band of mercenaries seeking control of the region's dwindling resources. His face, a roadmap of hardship, held a perpetual scowl, softened only by a grudging respect for Alistair's unwavering dedication. "Professor," Khalil would often grunt, his voice raspy from years of shouting over the desert winds, "this place is cursed. Izdihar brought nothing but ruin. Let the dead stay dead." Alistair would simply smile, a flicker of academic excitement in his eyes. "Ruin is merely the husk of something magnificent, Khalil. We just need to find the seed." Their days were spent sifting through crumbling ruins, deciphering faded inscriptions on ancient stones. He learned of its vibrant culture, its advanced knowledge of astronomy and mathematics, and its fervent belief in the old gods, entities of immense power and capricious nature. One sweltering afternoon, deep within the skeletal remains of what might have been a temple, Alistair stumbled upon something extraordinary. A chamber, miraculously preserved from the ravages of time and war, adorned with intricate carvings that depicted scenes of celestial events and bizarre rituals. In the center of the chamber stood a pedestal, upon which rested a single object, a perfectly preserved obsidian orb. A low, guttural hum filled the air, growing in intensity until it became a deafening roar. The carvings on the walls seemed to writhe, the figures depicted within them twisting and contorting in impossible ways. Khalil, his eyes wide with terror, grabbed Alistair's arm. "Professor, we need to leave. This place is waking." Alistair, transfixed by the spectacle, ignored Khalil's warning. He felt a strange pull towards the orb, a sense of recognition, as if he were remembering something he had long forgotten. When Alistair regained his senses, the chamber was silent, the tremor had ceased. The carvings were still, but something had changed. The air crackled with an unseen energy, a palpable sense of expectation. And then he saw it. Floating in the air above the pedestal, where the orb had been, was a figure, not a human figure, but something else. It was composed of pure light, shimmering and shifting, its form vaguely humanoid but with elongated limbs and a head that resembled a stylized jackal. Its eyes, 2 points of intense blue light, focused on Alistair. This was not a hallucination. This was real. He had somehow, impossibly, summoned something from the legends he had devoted his life to studying. The being spoke, its voice echoing in Alistair's mind, a voice that bypassed his ears and resonated directly within his soul. "The Seeker has awakened me. The veil is thin, the time is near." Before Alistair could respond, the being vanished, leaving behind only a lingering sense of awe and a chilling premonition. Khalil, who had witnessed the entire event, was speechless, his face pale with fear. Alistair, his voice trembling, could only manage a single word: "God." The event at the temple marked a turning point. Alistair was no longer just a scholar, he was a witness, a participant in something far grander and far more dangerous than he could have ever imagined. He knew that the being's words held a profound significance, that the veil it spoke of was a barrier between worlds, a barrier that was weakening, and he suspected that Mr. Thorn, his mysterious benefactor, was somehow connected to all of this. Alistair and Khalil found themselves caught in the crossfire, their every move shadowed by danger. They encountered deserters haunted by the horrors of war, scavengers driven to desperation by hunger, and fanatics preaching apocalyptic visions of a world consumed by fire. One evening, while camped in a deserted oasis, they were ambushed by a group of syndicate mercenaries. The mercenaries, led by a scarred and ruthless woman named Zara, were searching for something hidden within the ruins of Darakesh. "Tell me what you found, Professor," she hissed, pressing a rusty blade against Alistair's throat. "Tell me where the artifact is, and I might let you live." Alistair, though terrified, refused to betray his quest. He knew that the, quote, artifact Zara sought was connected to the being he had summoned, and he couldn't risk it falling into the wrong hands. Khalil, ever loyal, intervened, drawing his own blade and engaging the mercenaries in a desperate struggle. Alistair, seizing the opportunity, managed to escape into the darkness, his heart pounding in his chest. He was haunted by the image of the being, by its cryptic message, by the growing sense that he was on the verge of unraveling something that should have remained buried. Just when he was about to succumb to exhaustion and despair, he stumbled upon a hidden oasis, a verdant paradise tucked away within a towering rock formation. In the center of the oasis stood an ancient well, its stone walls adorned with the same intricate carvings he had seen in the temple. As he approached the well, he heard a voice that was both familiar and unsettling. "You have come far." He turned to see a figure emerge from the shadows, a tall, gaunt man dressed in flowing robes. His face was hidden behind a veil, but Alistair recognized the voice instantly. It was Mr. Silas Thorn. "Thorn? What are you doing here?" Alistair demanded. Thorn chuckled, a dry, unsettling sound. "I have been waiting for you, Professor. I knew you would find your way here. You are the key, the one who can unlock Izdihar's true potential." Thorn revealed his true intentions. He was not merely a collector of the bizarre. He was a worshipper of the old gods, a believer in their return. "The being you summoned," Thorn explained, "is a harbinger, a messenger of the old gods. It seeks to guide you, to prepare you for your role in the coming age." Alistair was horrified. He had inadvertently become a pawn in Thorn's dangerous game, a game that could have devastating consequences for the world. "I won't help you," Alistair declared. "I won't be a part of this." Thorn smiled, a cruel, predatory smile. "You have no choice, Professor. You have already awakened the being. You are bound to it now." Alistair was captured and imprisoned within the oasis, forced to endure Thorn's relentless attempts to manipulate him to break his will. Thorn subjected him to grueling interrogations, showed him visions of a world ruled by the old gods, a world of unimaginable power and unimaginable suffering. Meanwhile, Khalil, who had escaped the syndicate ambush, was desperately searching for Alistair. He knew that the professor was in grave danger, and he was determined to rescue him, even if it meant facing impossible odds. The Loyalists, led by a courageous and resourceful captain named Fatima, saw Alistair as a potential asset, someone who could help them understand the secrets of Darakesh and gain an advantage in the war. Together, Khalil and Fatima devised a plan to infiltrate Thorn's oasis and rescue Alistair. They knew it was a long shot, but they were willing to risk everything to save the professor and prevent Thorn from unleashing the old gods upon the world. Under the cover of darkness, Khalil and Fatima led their team of loyalists through the treacherous desert terrain, navigating treacherous canyons and evading syndicate patrols. A fierce battle ensued, with the loyalists fighting valiantly against overwhelming odds. Khalil, driven by his loyalty to Alistair, fought with the ferocity of a desert lion, his blade a whirlwind of death and destruction. Fatima, a skilled strategist and a fearless warrior, led the Loyalists in a series of daring maneuvers, exploiting the oasis's natural defenses and disrupting Thorn's forces. In the chaos of the battle, Khalil managed to slip away from the main fighting, and infiltrate the oasis's central compound, where Alistair was being held captive. "Khalil!" Alistair exclaimed, his face lighting up with relief. "We have to get you out of here, Professor," Khalil said, quickly freeing Alistair from his bonds. As they made their way out of the compound, they were confronted by Thorn himself. Thorn, his face contorted with rage, raised a ceremonial dagger, its blade shimmering with an unholy light. "You will not escape me, Professor," Thorn snarled. "You are destined to serve the old gods." Just as Thorn was about to strike, the being Alistair had summoned appeared, materializing in a blinding flash of light. "You are not worthy," the being declared, its voice resonating with immense power. "You seek to exploit the old gods for your own selfish desires. You will be judged." The being unleashed a torrent of energy, engulfing Thorn in a searing inferno. Thorn screamed in agony as his body was consumed by the flames, his soul torn apart by the divine power. With Thorn defeated, the being turned its attention to Alistair. "Your role is not yet complete, Seeker," it said. "The veil is still weak. You must use your knowledge to strengthen it, to protect this world from the darkness that seeks to consume it." It showed him how to harness the power of the old gods, not to control them, but to bind them, to keep them from crossing over into the mortal realm. And then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the being vanished, leaving Alistair with a daunting task and a heavy responsibility. With the help of Khalil and Fatima, Alistair used his newfound knowledge to restore the veil, reinforcing the barrier between worlds and preventing the old gods from returning. It was a long and arduous process, requiring him to travel to ancient sites, perform forgotten rituals, and decipher cryptic prophecies. The Shadow Syndicate was defeated, and the region began to rebuild, slowly but surely, from the ashes of conflict. Alistair, forever changed by his experiences, returned to Oxford, but he was no longer the same scholar he once was. He had seen things that defied explanation, witnessed events that challenged the very fabric of reality. He carried with him the weight of his knowledge, the burden of his responsibility. He dedicated his life to studying the ancient myths, not as mere stories, but as warnings, as guides to navigating the hidden realities that lie just beneath the surface of our world.